Hey guys, this is 4.8 for pre-algebra. It's exponents and division. So there are some key concepts that you need to write down in your notes. Exponents and division. So this one here, if you want to write this down, 4 to the 5th divided by 4 to the 2nd equals 4 to the 5th minus 2, which is 4 to the 3rd. So if I were to write this out, 4 to the 5th looks like this. Okay? And then I'm going to divide it by 4 squared. Now, 4 to the 5th means there's 5 4s, and 4 squared means there's 2. Anything that they have on the top and the bottom, I can cancel out. So if I cancel that one out, I can cancel that out, because 4 divided by 4 is 1. And then this 4 divided by this 4 is 1. So what I'm left with is 4 to the 3rd power on the top. So also another key concept that you need to write down is anything to the 0 power equals 1. So if I have 3 to the 0 power, that equals 1. If I have 3 to the 1st power, it equals 3. And if I have 3 squared, that equals 9. So why does 3 to the 0 power equal 1? Well, what it means, when you have anything to an exponent, you are multiplying. If this equaled 0, would I be able to get to 3 using multiplication? No. So you have to have a starting point. So the 1 is the starting point, and then as you go up, so see how I went from 0 to 1? As you go up, you times it by 3. And that's how the pattern works. It's just a very simple pattern. If I were to keep going, 3 to the 3rd equals 27. Every single time, you're timesing by 3. So you have to start at 1 because that's the identity property of multiplication. If I started at 0 and times it by 3, I'd stay at 0 the entire time. So anything to the 0 power is 1, the starting point. All right, so now here's what you have to do in this lesson. It says write in simplest form. So just like we just did, what I want you to do is I want you to write it out, x times x divided by x, and then I want you to cancel out. So this one cancels out this one, so you're just left with x. So try the next 3, and then we will correct. All right, so this one is y over y times y. Now, this cancels out with this, and I'm left with 1 over y. If you remember from a previous video, you cannot have 0 on the top of a fraction, so you have to replace it with the number 1, because that's the identity property. So 6xy over 9y. So I have 6 times x times y over 9 times y. So now I'm going to cancel stuff out. So this y and this y I can cross off. And then I can reduce. I can divide this by 3 to get 2 and this by 3 to get 3. So if I were to write this in simplest form, it would be 2x over 3. This one, I have 4 over 16, so that's 1 over 4, because this crosses out and becomes 1, this crosses out and becomes 4. A, I can't cross out. Now there's 2 b's up here. This is b times b, so I can cross off 1 and cross the 1 off on the bottom, and then I'm left with 1ab over 4. All right, so simplify each expression. So try A, B, and C real quickly, and then I'll give you the right answers. So this is 4 to the 5th over 4 to the 7th. So what you're going to be left with is 1 over 4 squared. Here is the same thing. I have 1 over A squared. And then here I have 3/9, which would be 1/3. and then all 8 of those y's cancel off. 8 of these cancel off, then I'm left with 4 y's left over. So if you look at those, now if I look at these problems, these 3 problems, there is another way to write this instead of always writing a 1 on the top divided by something. So here is the last key concept. So this key concept is negative exponents. So if I make a negative exponent, it would be 3 to the negative 2 equals 1 over 3 squared. Okay, so what this means. So remember how we had 3 to the 0 power equals 1, 3 to the first power equals 3, 3 squared equals 9. Now, let's say I want to go backwards. See how these numbers, 0, 1, and 2 are going up. Now, let's say I want to go back. I want to go to negative 1 and negative 2. Now, if I go backwards, my numbers don't go negative because it's multiplication. I can't keep my pattern of times 3. I cannot keep my pattern. I have to keep that pattern. The pattern has to stay. So what happens is it becomes a fraction. It becomes 1 over 3 to the first power, or 3. So that becomes 1/3. So it becomes 1/3, and 1/3 times 3 is 1. So then if I go back one more, this one becomes 1 over 3 squared, which is 1/9. So my number just gets tiny, 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 tiny. It just keeps getting smaller and smaller, but my pattern still is there and will still work. My numbers don't get negative, they get smaller. All right, so write each expression without a fraction bar. So, b to the 3rd over b to the 9th. So if I wanted to write that without a fraction bar, it would be 1 over b to the 6th, and they don't want the fraction bar, so that equals b to the negative 6. So anything that's on the denominator, or in the denominator, I can make it go to a regular number, but I have to change it to a negative exponent. So for this next one, I would do, okay, so I have 3 m's on top and 3 m's on the, 6 m's on the bottom, so that leaves me with 3 m's on the bottom, and then 6 n's on the bottom, and a 1. So if I wanted to write that without the fraction bar, I can move this to the top, but I have to make both of the exponents negative. So it'd be m to the negative 3, n to the negative 6. And then xy to the 5th. So I have 1x on top and 5x's on bottom. So I'm going to cancel my 1 out and cancel 1 out here and make that a 4. So I have x to the 4th power. And then I have y to the 5th, y to the 3rd. So that means I have y to the 2nd. Now, watch this, okay? So I have something on the top and I have something on the bottom. If I want them both, I don't want a fraction, okay? I want it to not be a fraction. I want to move this x to the 4th up to the top. So if I move the x to the 4th up to the top, my top is still there, y to the 2nd. And then how I move that is I make it a negative exponent. And then you're done. So I leave whatever is up there. I left my y squared. You leave whatever's on the top. You leave it there. And then I take whatever's in the denominator and I make it a negative exponent. It's really just that simple. You take whatever in the denominator, and if I want to move it to the top, I make it a negative exponent. And that is it for your notes.